بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا، وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا، إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. لله تبارك وتعالى. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. I praise Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. I thank Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. I ask Allah to send countless blessings and salutations upon our noble Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all those who follow them in excellence into the day of judgment. And I ask Allah tabarak ta'ala to accept from us all of our noble and sincere intentions. Insha'Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, I wanted to remind us of the methodology of acquiring knowledge. It is extremely important, as we spend a lot of our time teaching people whatever Allah tabarak wa ta'ala has favored us with in terms of knowledge that we acquired about the religion. And one of the things I've noticed is that many of us, because of our environment, and as I always say, access to knowledge and teachers, never learned how to acquire knowledge. And I think that has been a reason why we haven't learned as much as we could. So I wanted to briefly, and maybe I'll do it in stages, teach us how to learn. When we started this several years ago, let's have a quick review. Do y'all remember the first book? Because people always ask me about books. Do you remember the first book I had us read? And we read it together. Let's see who remembers. And I stipulated that everyone should read this book before we start anything. And unfortunately, the book is no longer available. So that helps a lot. So that means we did get it. No, not Ladders to Success. Who remembers? So you got to go way back. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. It was before that. Bingo. Yep. Etiquette of the Learner. That was the first book we started with. And the reason being, yes, the reason being was that we wanted to know the position of a student and a teacher. And the rights of the student upon the teacher, and the rights of the teacher upon the student. The manners and etiquette of the learner or the seeker or the student, and the manner and etiquette and learners of the teacher. So after having a sincere intention, right? A sincere intention, because without sincere intentions, you're going to crash, right? And when we say sincere intention, you can put it into four aspects. Number one intends to draw close to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in status. At-taqarrub ilallah. Number one. Number two, one seeks the reward from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Number three, one seeks the acceptance of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And number four, one seeks Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So when we formulate those four intentions, that is the sincere intention. Seeking proximity to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in status, seeking the reward from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, seeking the acceptance of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and seeking Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So after that, you need adab, manners, behaviors, etiquette. And one of the biggest missing elements of manners among us is we come to learn with a full cup. This is a bad etiquette. We'll come to the teacher as if we know. And this is a mistake. I remember when I was learning with some of my teachers, sometimes things would occur in this session that I had knowledge of. And as I would listen to the response of my teachers, I realized that even what I thought I knew, there were aspects of that that I didn't know, which taught me that even if I have some knowledge, I still should come as if I don't know. And I should go further than that. It shouldn't just be as if I don't know. It should be I don't know. That's the approach. And with that, you would be able to actually acquire. Because when you come to a lesson, to a gathering, to a teacher, and you already know, there's a portion of the mind that blocks out information. And that, it's a natural thing, no matter if you want to or not. If you come in your mind that you know, you've already blocked out some of what the teacher is conveying. And the thing about that is you can't control the amount. You can't specify. But sometimes that which you blocked out, even involuntary, your mind blocks it out. You need to understand the case. And the reason why your mind blocked it out is because you think you know. And that which you think you know is not sufficient enough to solve the case or to give the proper answer. So this is a danger. And the other thing is that when you do that, you make the learning process more difficult for yourself. Because now, instead of just taking the information as it is, you have to filter it with your own thought pattern. It makes it much more difficult. One of our teachers told us about his teacher. He said that his teacher attended the sessions of knowledge with different teachers, and he never asked a question. Rather, he just attended and wrote notes, took notes. He said, and what he found by that process was that every question he had was eventually answered in the sessions of his teachers. When he would review his notes, all those questions he had were answered. And he never interrupted the process of retaining the information from the teacher with excessive questioning. He had the approach, I'm here, I don't know. I'm here because I believe the teacher knows, so I'm going to get what he knows in my mind. And one thing that is helpful in that, it will help you categorize what you learned from whom you learned. Because everyone you go with an empty glass. It's very helpful. One thing about online learning is here it's free and you have no manners, so it works. But what I would suggest to you It is not free because your time is valuable. It is not free because your time is valuable. So you're paying. You're paying in your time, which could be used for something beneficial. If you're wasting it, then you're losing great value. So the manners part is for your benefit. Never mind the teacher. We're talking about you as a student. Don't waste your time. Make sure that you maximize every opportunity you have to learn, right? So when you approach the lesson, approach it as if I don't know. And if you know, then you should attend where you don't know. Unless you are reviewing. And in the case of reviewing, you still don't know. That's why you're reviewing. So in any case, you should have a certain respect for your time, your own time, let alone someone else's time. We're just talking about you as your own time, right? Imam al-Haddad mentioned that to be aware of your breaths, because every breath is a precious jewel. Once it goes away, it never returns. That's deep. Every breath is a precious jewel, because once it goes away, it will never return. So we should count our breaths. That takes a lot of work, but we should give it a try, even if we do it in stages. So that's one aspect. Empty your cups. One of the most horrific wastage of time is for the student to try to teach the teacher. What a waste of time. For the student to try to teach the teacher. A waste of time. I was watching a, what's they call, reels on Facebook thing. You know, they have those reels. I think that's what it's called. There was this teacher in a class and a student who wasn't a good student. The teacher was trying to teach and the student was on the phone. So the teacher got really frustrated and was like, "Give me the phone." And the student was like, "No, why I need to give you my phone?" And then the teacher snatched the phone and accidentally threw it. He was so frustrated, threw it and broke the phone. And the teacher said, one of the meaning, I don't remember his exact words. He said, one of the most difficult things to do is for me to come in here and try to teach someone who doesn't want to learn. That resonated with me. one of the most difficult things for me is to come teach someone who doesn't want to learn. In other words, the feeling is like we're wasting our time. And Sheikh Samir used to say to us all the time, don't waste time. We don't have a plenty of time. Don't waste time. We don't have a plenty of time. So for all of us, including myself, right? Let's value our time of learning, right? And let's learn. Because I'm telling you, if you learn just the manners, that aspect of the student, you'll memorize much more. And it's an advice for myself and for you, right? So empty your cups, like my cup is empty. Where is the coffees? Now, the second thing after that, well, the third, because I mentioned intention, I mentioned manners, is high aspirations. High aspiration. You spend every morning, me and you, coming to these lessons. Let's make sure we get it. Aspire to become. You should memorize and learn these lessons so well that you yourself become the lesson. Right? And it is important that each of us become, to our degree. Not everyone's going to be the same, but within our capacity, and you should know your capacity, and you should have a high aspiration to attain your capacity, right? Put effort, repeat, review, memorize, and practice. It's not going to look the same for everybody, but everybody has a capacity. And none of us are working at our capacity. I'm going to repeat that. Every one of us has a capacity where we're full, can't do no more. But none of us are working at our capacity. I'm 100% sure of that. So aspiration, high aspiration, will push us to our capacity. You remember I mentioned Habib Abdullah bin Hussein bin Tahir, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who said towards the end of his life, I have no room for any more good deeds. I filled it up. I did everything I could possibly do. I can't do any more. We want to try to have that kind of aspiration. Yesterday, in my lessons, my own lessons, me studying, I was studying manuscripts. Very hard subject. SubhanAllah. And very difficult. Just understanding sometimes what is needed to do that. And I came across a discussion about printed books and manuscript books and the comparison between them in terms of availability, necessity, and additional information. Do any of y'all know why manuscripts are important? The study of manuscripts? Let me see. You probably won't know this in English at all, uh, unless you're a writer. But I don't even know, even in English, is it that important? It may be. Writers would know this. Do anyone know the significance of manuscripts Islamically? An idea, just to throw something with you to show you what I'm talking about. It's a primary source, that's true. But what's the significance of it being a primary source? Yes, but what about it? As my teacher said, what about it? Exactly. Books are published from manuscripts. So all of our classical books are based on manuscripts. And so when we read printed copies, that's not a source in reality. So when you're reading the printed copy of Al-Bukhari, that printed copy is not what you rely upon. What is relied upon is the original manuscripts from which that copy was taken, which also involves the skill of the editor of those manuscripts who produced that printed copy. Right? So I remember we were in Lebanon, and one of my teachers was having an argument with a particular member of a particular group. So he was talking to me about the issue. And I said, Sayyidi, why don't you go to their sheikh and talk to him about this issue? That's the easiest way. Skip the followers and go to the sheikh. And he said something to me that highlighted the manuscript issue. He said, I can't talk to him because he would come up with some rare manuscript that no one ever seen or heard of and make me look stupid. As I'm doing this study, I realize what he's saying. I realized the significance. At that time, I didn't realize the significance of what he was saying. But that sheikh was a master of manuscripts, right? So in the printed editions, there may be errors that the professional who's a master of manuscripts would realize that the one who's just reading from the printed copy would never even know, right? So that was his point. So what I may think is the issue may not be the issue, and he knows that. And they be making an issue because of what they saw in studying with him in manuscripts, which we didn't have access to. It was like just some scholarly stuff they go through. But the point I mention this is that you discover a lot of things ain't like they seem. So even what you think you know has layers to it. So as a student, you have to empty your cup. Even when you have information, you have to consider that I have an aspect of the information, not all of it. So we were talking about the manuscripts of al-Bukhari. And the teacher was like, there's more to this than meets the eye. And there needs to be a research in other manuscripts of al-Bukhari to compare and weigh the narrations. This is right. And even with such a rigorously authenticated book, there is still work to be done, was what I understood, right? It's not settled because you have a printed copy in front of you. That was very, very, for me, it was very informative and motivating to realize how much those who proceeded in effort and work have left for those who will come after to do. It's still work to do to this day. You know, there's still abundance of learning in things that we think we know. Right? So just imagine when we're talking about things or issues that don't have as much effort and work put in it at this high level. So what about the thing that doesn't have a lot of effort in it? This is a lot of effort. These other matters, they don't have as much effort. So the possibility of not having a full picture is much greater, whereas there was so much energy since the time of Imam al-Bukhari to now, so much energy put in it, and there's still work to be done, right? So what about other stuff? Right? So for us, there's a matter of aspiration to achieve more because we still have more work to do, right? And when you hear these discussions, you'll be like, man, there's so much to learn, right? It's so much to learn. So that's the third thing. Aspiration. Let's work harder. You know how many books that you've never seen? Important books. And I'm talking about printed books that we've never seen. And sometimes we talk as if we've seen everything. No, I'm not joking, right? It's funny when you think about it. You know how many books on the subject you're talking about you haven't even seen? And you're talking with authority. I didn't say don't talk, but you're talking like an authority. Come on, man. I would venture to safely say that for everything you think you know, the printed material alone is 10 times more than what you have read. You heard what I said? With everything you think you know, just in printed information is 10 times more than what you've read. And most of us don't read. Most of us are on these gadgets and Google and wasting our time. We don't read at all. If we go in the houses, the library probably could fill up one bookshelf. Most people. We're not readers, right? So for us, that's even more. We're relying on gadgets because we have low aspirations. So we want everything easy. So therefore, reading takes time, right? So let's increase the aspiration. That's why we constantly on this platform read books, right? One of the reasons is just to get us in the habit of reading. Before we do the actual research, I need us to be in the habit to read, period. Because our system that we grew up in education is not great, especially in our communities, does not put enough emphasis on reading. You know, the average person may have between the third and sixth grade reading level, as they say. That's deep. So at that level, you're not going to read real material, especially we're talking about in a language that's not yours, like an Arabic language. It's not your language. So there's a lot. And I think we need to change our whole approach to how we learn Islam, right? And it's not our fault. Many of us, and we've been guilty of it, we've made learning a debate, a one upper, not learning so that we could grow. Right? So we need to reverse that. You know, we've been busy learning just to say I'm on the huck, not to be on the huck, just to say I'm on the huck. It's a difference, right? So we need to fix that, right? Reverse that trend, especially in our community, because they haven't served us well, right? We need to actually learn for those noble intentions we talked about, right? So aspiration, I'm gonna stop here at aspiration. There are more. Well, let me add one more because we talked about the sincerity and the intentions. We talked about the aspirations. We talked about adab. One more. Patience. The last one. Patience. This is not a 40-yard dash. This is a marathon, right? Seeking knowledge, becoming is a lifetime journey. It never stops until you die. So no need trying to get it all at once. Step by step by step by step. Patience. It's not going to happen overnight, right? You're going to always be learning. Right? So be patient with the process. One of the aspects of patience for us is to not become frustrated when we discover what we thought we knew was mistaken. Can we put that up? I would like all of us to make sure we get it. An important aspect of patience is not to become frustrated when we discover we were mistaken. That's important. Right? We're going to discover that a lot. We were mistaken. Even sometimes it's levels to that. It's not all the same, but it's levels. Sometimes the mistake can be a big mistake, and sometimes it's just minor adjustments, right? But you have to be patient with that. And don't stay stuck when you discover you're mistaken. Advance. Use your aspirations to get past your frustrations, right? Because it is frustrating. You've been on something, doing something for so long, and you know you dead out of pocket and wrong. And sometimes our aspiration don't push us past the frustration. We just stop. Frustrated, man, it's all. No, you were mistaken. That's the part of the learning process. Keep going, right? That's important. You know, there was a time before I learned some of the things that I've learned, I didn't recognize when somebody was pulling the wool over my eyes, even unintentionally, because certain parts of knowledge I didn't have. I didn't realize when someone was pulling the wool over my eyes, even if they were doing it unintentionally. I'm not saying they was intentionally doing that. They was mistaken, and they didn't realize they was mistaken. But as I learned different things, that same thing that before that allowed someone to pull the wool over my eyes, I see clearly now. And at one point, I used to get frustrated about that. But I realized the person didn't know themselves. They didn't know themselves. They didn't have this aspect of what they thought they knew. Right? It happens. Right? It happens. So be patient as you discover things and don't get frustrated. And then let your aspirations move you or push you past your frustrations. So let's try to apply these things. Sincere intention. So that's ikhlas, sincerity. Adab, good manners in our approach. Himma, high aspirations. And sabr, patience. All of these things will help us in our learning process. And lastly, just as a seal, we as people are not like we used to be. Our modern lifestyle has destroyed our pursuit of knowledge, especially Islamic knowledge. So we're not the same, right? We're not the same. So understand that and realize it's going to be a deficiency no matter what. We're just not the same people anymore. One of my teachers, rahimahullah, he said something that I never thought about. He said that all this stuff going around in the world, satellites and, you know, wireless stuff, that stuff is killing brain cells. He said, and that's why we don't have master memorizers no more. They can't. The brain's cells have been destroyed. He said, for some of us, as much as we use these devices, we still memorize our name. Subhanallah. May Allah make it easy. So be patient and do your best to try your best to start reading books, not tablets, real books that you have in your hand with paper, notebooks that you wrote with your pen. Don't put everything on the tablet. Stuff is destroying our brains. Go back to what made us great in the past. Read a book. Put a book in your hand. Stop relying on instant gratification for knowledge. Put some effort. It's rewardable. Trust me. Increase your reading of books. And then as we learn what books are beneficial to read, right, will be helpful. And Allah knows best. Let me take a few of those questions. Can recording a speaker be categorized as equivalent to manuscripts? Not when we're talking about books. If you're talking about original thoughts of that person, it can serve with that and it should be transcribed. But when we're talking about manuscripts, we're talking about original books that were written. So the manuscript is an actual written document. Like I said, though the voice and the original thought of that speaker can be serve as that purpose in one way, but the source material for that speech should have its written place. It was written. So what is the written original of those thoughts of the speaker? We will need that. So even when we're lazy, so don't expect us to do this. We are lazy. The speaker and the listener, lazy. We're not like that. We're not, to be honest. We have an idea of knowledge, not knowledge. There's a difference. Most people who talk have not sourced adequately what they're talking about. It's going to have flaws and gaps. That's just the way we are today. We're not scholarly at all, not a little bit. Because the you know why the speaker doesn't source really? Because the listener's not looking for that. He just wants to be entertained or given information in the fastest way possible. They're not interested in confirming truth, which takes a lot of work. And the speaker will definitely oblige you for that because they don't want to do the work anyway. So, no, they cannot be equivalent to the manuscript because we're not doing that kind of work. May Allah give us. I'm telling you, we need to do the work though. I long for the day when we do it, right? But I know for certain we're not into reading. And manuscripts and even the published, it takes a lot of reading. And if we're not used to reading, we're not going to do it. When a person is born a Muslim, converts to Christianity, that person is an apostate and they have a severe punishment in the hellfire. May Allah guide them back to Islam. Subhanallah, Ya Latif. May Allah protect us from a bad ending. Can you recommend an authoritative book on the fitrah, preferably in English? Sorry, Habibi. I can't. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Nothing comes to my mind offhand. Sorry. If somehow I come across something, nothing comes to my mind about that. Not a book. Yeah, can't help you. If something should come, I'll let you know. Tell you, inshallah. Um, Tomorrow we'll start reading in this book as well as continue in the Blessed Valley. So tomorrow, inshallah, we'll start a whole new series in the Ihya, because from reading the Blessed Valley, a Blessed Valley, we've been encouraged to have an abundant reading in the Ihya of Imam al-Ghazali. So we was using this summarized book, and I want to have them in order. So we're going to start from the beginning. I would believe when our brother was asking about a book on fitrah, he's speaking about a specific concept. I don't think he's talking in general. I think he's more specific. At least that's what I'm understanding. So the Quran has discussions on aspects of fitrah, but it's general, not specific. I think he's looking for something more specific, more detailed. And Allah knows best. That's what I understood. Tell you. And I'm going to ask you something. Please. I had someone tell me something. I would ask some of you to become, who are not, regular supporters of the work of Masjid Muhammad. Monthly donors. We have a lot of work we're doing. And we need as much support as possible. We need help. We need to actually get to the point where we're employing teachers, right? It's not enough of us. It's not enough Sunni teachers who understand our reality. Not enough. And the work that's put on us, you cannot imagine. And everyone doesn't have the ability to do all this work for free. Everyone's situation is different. So we need to help facilitate for our own benefit, right? So I encourage all of you who benefit from these classes to do as much as you can, right? And inshallah, it's more than the bare minimum you can do. Because if we all do our bare minimum, we're still not going to reach our objective. I had something that happened to me the other day. I'm gonna put it in a general way. So we did this molid and al maqasid. And after the molid, a group of students came to me with their teacher. And the students had such good manners. I met them before. I didn't recognize each student, but I met that group of people before. Then the teacher said to me, "Can you come to our area? We need you. And it's far away." I said, "Man, can't do it. Can't do it. I don't have that kind of time. Can't." But I was watching these youth, a bunch of them. And I felt extremely disappointed that I can't do it. Then the teacher explained to me, he said, "Listen, man." He didn't say man. He said, "Listen, Sheikh, we losing our children to the Wahhabis because we don't have enough strong Sunni English-speaking teachers. They love you." I felt so like, he said, even some of the children of very religious parents are flipping because of the lack of teachers in English, because they're mixing on the internet and we're not doing enough. Yeah, Latif. Right? It really, really like. And since he told me that, I've been trying to figure a way how I could help. But really, we need more people. We need to train more people. We need people who understand context. We need people who have real knowledge, not superficial stuff, right? Virtue teaching has its limitations. It has its limitations. You need both. Virtual teachings can never substitute face-to-face teachings. If anyone ever came to our live classes, it's a total different experience. How many of you have been to the live classes that we give, whether at Masjid Muhammad or we was traveling? How many of you have been to live classes? I know there's many of you. Do you notice a significant difference from just me talking online and face-to-face learning? big difference. Huge difference. And when you're talking about someone who's being bombarded with ideas, you need a real interaction. It's a massive difference. It's not the same. One of the biggest things is you cannot see from online the real genuine nature of the one you're receiving from, right? Far as you know, online, I could just be entertaining you. When you meet me face to face, you'll see the difference. Like, oh, he's really, really as he appears. You'll see a big difference. Not the same as just looking someone, you know. Maybe he's not really like that, he's just talking. But when you're actually physically with someone, travel with them, see them, say, oh, that is how they really live, right? It's a big difference. Has a much more significant impact. That's why we say you can't learn from the internet. And that doesn't mean you can't learn anything. But the reason, the way I am, because I actually lived and traveled and spent time with living teachers who were like what they talk. And they put that in me because I saw it, I felt it, I drunk it, I ate it, I slept it, I traveled it, I wore it. I actually was with living real teachers who were with living real teachers all the way back to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It has its effect. It's not the same as just loosely on the internet, paying attention when I feel like it, doing whatever I want, interpreting it however I want. No, 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 no. When you really, really have that connection, it has its traces, right? So there needs to be on the ground physical proximity. There's a secret in that. Uh, so the support is I have, you know, young people, all of them under 30 that I'm training, and they're growing. But we need more, and we need to facilitate higher levels of learning for those to become teachers. It's an ongoing work. It doesn't have a limit. It doesn't have, okay, if we get $50,000, that's enough. No, we have that work to continue, right? So it's a continuous work until we die. Some of us have to be really committed, right? So just as an encouragement, for those of you can, and uh, as I said to you, when I say I saw in terms of an amount, everyone can do what they can do. If $5 is what you can do it. MashaAllah. Right? If $1 is what you can do it. But you know what you can do. You know, push yourself because it's all going to benefit you. Right? It's going to benefit you and your succeeding generations if we keep the work going. By the way, next week, we will be in Philadelphia at Masjid Muhammad in Philadelphia. I don't know exactly where that is in Philadelphia. But we'll put the flyer, inshallah, tomorrow. From 11 to 5, we're going to have an introduction to the study of Al-Hadith. So we'll be a first in a series of classes. If we are successful, we're going to be reading books of Hadith at that masjid. So we're starting out with an introduction to the field of Hadith and its study and what it requires. So that's next Saturday. The 7th is next Saturday? Yes. October the 7th. Yeah, next Saturday. So for those who are in the area, or can come, it's a one-day event. And it will be extremely beneficial, inshallah ta'ala. And it will be the beginning of a series of studies of books. This lessons will be not necessarily usul al-hadith. It will have that aspect, but it would actually cover the knowledge of hadith and its branches and its aspects, its parts, its scholars, its books, its sciences. So it's going to be an overview of the whole structure of hadith studies. So it's going to cover many things that will help you understand hadith so that when we read books, you're not lost. So that's next week, inshallah. May Allah give us tawfiq. So barakallahu bikum, inshallah. I'll put the flyer up tomorrow. I just don't know how to do flyers. Inshallah. So I'll have the flyer up every day this week. Inshallah. So we'll see you. What's today? Friday. Everyone have a good Jumu'ah. Make plenty salam ala Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And have an excellent Jumu'ah today. And inshallah, remember we start tomorrow with reading this summary of the Ihya. Barakallahu bikum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.